Hello and welcome back to a new video. In today's video, we're going to discuss porting and how it all works. So to start off, what does porting a mortgage actually mean? When you port a mortgage, you basically transfer it from one property to another. Now, technically, the mortgage is closed on one property and then reopened on the next property without early repayment charges. That's typically how it works. Now, is porting your mortgage a good idea? Obviously, this depends on quite a few factors, but the main factor that we consider is the interest rate on your existing product. Now, if you took a mortgage product 5 years ago, the interest rates are likely to be a lot better than what they are now. So you're probably looking to keep it if you switch to a new property. So in that instance, retaining your product and porting it, taking it with you from one property to another, often makes a lot of sense and it's a good idea. But if, for example, you've got an interest rate which is far higher than the market's new rates at the moment, then perhaps you might consider redeeming it and then opening a brand new product on the new property. Now, do you have to pay a deposit when porting a mortgage? The answer is obviously yes. When you port a mortgage, you're basically just transferring your mortgage from one property to another. But if you're buying a new property, you'll still have deposit requirements to be able to complete the transaction. Often with porting, you're selling and then you're buying a new property. So a lot of the time the equity is used from your existing property and that is used as a deposit on the new property. But what people often find with porting is that they need to, especially if they're buying a property of higher value, they need to apply for what's called a top-up. A top-up is basically an additional part to your mortgage, but it's separate to your main account. Obviously, if you're porting your main account from one property to another, the product stays exactly the same in terms of the interest rate, the early repayment charge terms, the monthly mortgage payments, the product expiry date. It all stays exactly the same. So our job as mortgage brokers, if you're looking to borrow more, is we often keep that product as it is, keep it the same, but we apply for a top-up, which is a separate account, which will have its own separate terms, interest rate, product type, etc. But our job normally is to try to align both of those products so that they both have similar early repayment charge end dates. And that's critical because it basically means that what we want to do ideally is have the ability to refinance both of those products when they reach their product expiry dates. And by doing so, you can redeem them and perhaps move to a totally different lender without any early repayment charges. So what are the factors that influence your ability to port a mortgage from one property to another? So the first factor is your existing lender's property criteria. When you port a product from one property to another, you have to stay with your existing mortgage lender. When you do a top-up, you still have to borrow that additional funds with the same mortgage lender. So their property criteria will still apply. For example, if you're with a mainstream mortgage lender, they might not allow a thatched roof or perhaps a flat roof. There's many different construction types that lenders might not allow. Steel frame is a bit of a problem as well, or timber frame. Check with a broker. But as I say, you may actually be forced to redeem your existing mortgage and open a brand new mortgage on the new property if that existing lender doesn't accept the property criteria. So that's a pretty big point. Another factor to consider is the existing terms of your mortgage product. Your existing mortgage product might not actually allow for porting. So it's well worth checking your paperwork and make sure you can do it before you inquire with a broker. Another factor is if your property is currently in negative equity. So in other words, if you owe more than the value of your property, you won't be able to take it with you from one property to another because the lender, when that mortgage is redeemed, will still require further funds to clear the total balance. So in that instance, you couldn't port and take your mortgage with you from one property to the next. But I think the most significant factor that affects portability is a change in the applicant's circumstances, and more notably, their income and financial commitment position. If your income has perhaps fallen from when you originally took the mortgage to now, or perhaps if your financial commitments have increased significantly, you may no longer be able to borrow the sum required to even port your existing mortgage. A lot of clients, they get this wrong. They think that they should be able to port their mortgage from one property to another without the lender doing a brand new credit check and affordability check. But lenders, they all treat porting applications like a brand new application in terms of the affordability and credit checks. because you're effectively applying for a new mortgage even though you're closing one down and reopening it on a new property. Now, we've discussed porting if you're looking to buy a more expensive property and perhaps you'll need to get a top up in addition to your main mortgage account. But what if you're buying a property that's lower value and downsizing compared to your existing property? Well, the mortgage lender, they need to retain the same loan to value in order for you to port. So it may just be the case that to make sure they have enough equity in that new property, you may need to clear a portion of the mortgage before you can transfer it. Thank you for watching today's video. If you want to learn more about porting, read the blog below. And if you're looking for mortgage advice, inquire on the top of our website. We're whole of market, fee-free and directly authorised mortgage brokers, and we'd be more than happy to help you in the future. We deal with porting on a day-to-day basis, so why not inquire and book your fee-free consultation today?